This is the second meeting in our three-part series about clinical trials, gene therapy, patient perspective and experience. Today, we are fortunate to have Vanessa O'Connell and Sean Kelly. If you don't know the two of them, they are both Pompe patients. They're wonderful advocates in the community and good friends of mine. They are both going to share their experience as part of a clinical trial. We do ask that Vanessa and Sean do not talk about the sponsor directly or name the product. And please don't ask questions about that. Just, so because we want to try to be sensitive to them, but also to the various industry partners and sponsors that are doing clinical trials. So with that, I will turn it over to Sean and Vanessa and let them talk a little bit about their experience, and hopefully we can just have a good conversation and discussion and with some good questions.
I'll let you go first, Vanessa. Ladies
Oh,
first.
thought you had to leave, so if you'd like to go first, you can. If not, I will.
Okay, got a half hour at least.
Oh, I need more than that. Okay. Um, well, I made a couple points today. I kind of wrote down that don't be afraid to ask for an accommodation. If something in that particular trial isn't helpful or isn't working for you, don't be afraid to ask and say, hey, can we do it this way for me? And the sponsors want you in their trials. So I think they're more than willing to help accommodate if at all possible. And this y'all, I'm sure know, but read everything carefully and don't be afraid to ask any question. Nothing is stupid. They need to answer, make you feel totally comfortable about what you're getting into. I've been in actually 3 trials. In the last one, I asked all of my local docs. As y'all know, I think I'm in Orlando, but I also go to Duke University, and so I see specialists there. So I asked everybody. It's like 10 people before I entered to make sure that I felt comfortable and that they felt comfortable with what I was doing. One thing that I thought was really important to me was to ask about any adverse reactions that had been reported before me, if there had been, and what is the chance that I would have those adverse reactions. That was really important to me. Pre-qualifying, I know that Heather asked a question about that. How did you feel when you were being pre-qualified? Because you didn't know that day. It was I think about a week later before you knew that you actually had been accepted. That was stressful, not knowing, trying out for this thing and not showing that you're going to be accepted. But it was worth it. So, and that's most of my notes. My first trial was like a fitness tracker. And so they were tracking your activities before infusion and after. The second one was on breathing and respiratory training. And the third one was with an enzyme replacement. So, John, I think you're up unless there's any questions.
Wow. All right. Well, as far as for me, I technically was never on any kind of real trial. I actually did try to go into a clinical trial with an ERT, and unfortunately, just as I was going through my pre-qualification exams or whatever, they ended up closing the trial. Um, I think basically the main thing that I would say with clinical when it comes to any kind of clinical trial is that, like Vanessa said, exit questions, know what you're getting into, know what, I mean, obviously it's a clinical trial, so they don't have all the data that's there available to give you for to answer all these different questions, but there is, some sort of data they can give you to try to, you know, um, help you out with a decision making. For me, I kind of feel like I was maybe a little bit on the lucky side when I was first diagnosed because of the fact that um, that when I first got diagnosed, there was the regular standard ERT, and then there was two clinical trials for ERT plus they started up with I think it was one or two trials that were starting up for gene therapy. Um, so I kind of had like a choice of what I wanted to do. I kind of stuck with the standard one at first, and then later on when I decided to make a switch, I decided to switch into one of the other clinical trials for ERT, and unfortunately, that's when I was uh, no, I don't want to say disqualified, but they closed it, so I wasn't able to get into it. So that was it. I did research on some of the other trials that were out there. I personally just did not feel comfortable enough with what I seen and what I didn't see. Um, I kind of like walked away from some of them where I felt like I had more questions that weren't being answered than questions that were being answered. And to me, I just felt like, I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. So, I decided to opt out and not saying I would never go into another clinical trial. I'm just saying that right now, where I'm at, I'm happy. And if something comes up and I'm able to get more information, that makes me feel comfortable about it, then I would definitely go into another clinical trial. Um,
Yeah, I didn't answer that part, Sean, either, but yeah, I would definitely be willing to do another one. Again, I have my checklist of things I need to be able to do that and feel comfortable. But if I was able to do that, definitely.
Can I maybe ask you guys a couple of questions just to kick us off, and then we'll see if others jump in and ask questions. How did you first find out about the clinical trial, and was any part of the kind of screening for it done from home, or did you have to travel to all the screening?
I can answer that. Yeah, I had to travel. I'm not a great distance, but yeah, I traveled to get screening done. And the first question, I guess, the very first trial I was in, well, I guess all three of them, they came to me and said, "Hey, I've got this," knowing me, knowing my age, knowing late onset. And so I was approached by the what do you call that? The doctor that was handling the trials. They approached me, knowing my location too. I mean, I think we could probably find them all on social media and or clinicaltrials.gov. But in my situation, they all approached me.
and
Sean,
as
yeah.
far as my situation, when I was first diagnosed, my doctor was the one who actually told me about all the clinical trials. Unfortunately, he wasn't very well versed in much of the trials itself. So I guess that's what kind of led to me like not going into a trial from the very beginning and going with like the regular standard practice at the time. Um, and then it was like up to me to more or less find out like more and more about these trials on my own. And I found out about some of them through like I said, like clinicaltrials.com, and just talking to other people, within a Pompe community that kind of know things about a lot of this stuff. Some people that were already in some of the trials were giving me a little bit of information about things that were going on. Um, there was like websites that I was going to that had like articles where they were showing like some of the data that was coming up from some of these trials, and I was reading that and you know made me feel kind of comfortable to get into one of those trials. Um, I guess at one point I can say I was somewhat into a trial. I did try to do that respiratory strength training trial with Vanessa. I was disqualified because of my breathing, but with that, they did. I did reach out to them to try and get into it. and they did do the pre-qualification testing. It was more or less like just like this. Like they sent me a device, whatever to use, and we did it right over the computer. And
Hmm.
it was here in my house instead of having to go to a facility and have all that stuff done.
I'm going to keep asking questions if other people aren't, but other people I think will. Last time we did. So that's pretty cool. I think that they sent you that respiratory device and then they did it over Zoom.
Right.
Vanessa, did you have any experiences like that too, where any of it was able to be done remotely, or did all of it need to be done on site?
No, just like Sean, I was sent the equipment.
Yeah.
Um,
So that
yeah,
initial screening part you were able to do partly from home.
yeah, and actually, I forgot about another trial I just was working with. They also, instead of you having to go to a facility to have blood draws and urine, they would send a nurse to you. Made it extremely comfortable. They would tell you the date, they'd send the time, and it was great. So very accommodating.
Yeah.
I wanted to add, so Vanessa, you talked about accommodations and trying to make it workable for patients. Um, were there any kinds of were there things in particular that they did? Were there and so like I'm particularly interested in and in talking with some of the industry partners, did they provide any types of maybe mental health supports or resource supports, things like that, outside of what might have been the focus of the clinical trial?
No, I wasn't offered any additional support like that, but I felt comfortable enough to ask if I needed it. Everyone was extremely accommodating. How are you doing? What do you need? What can we do? So had I needed it, yes, they definitely could have offered additional support. The accommodations that were made for me is, like I said, coming to your home sometimes, so you didn't have to go to the study facility. They would come to you, they would run with simple blood draws, things like that. And that was great. This last trial, I mean, I have two kids, y'all may or may not know. They're older now, but at that time I was really involved in their lives, their sports, their school, and I was really hesitant to give up some free time. And so I explained that and they were just really accommodating. So I think all our sponsors are that way. They want you in the trial, they want you to participate. And if at all possible, they're gonna help you to be able to do that. And that's what I'm doing.
And so um and this might seem naive, but are you able to talk a little bit about any costs that might be associated with participating in a clinical trial? Maybe that question seems naive because I assume that there is no cost, but could you talk about whether or not there is any cost in participating?
In any of mine, there was never a cost associated for me to participate. You were paid a stipend every time you participated, so there was something there. I don't remember being a huge great amount. That's not the reason I participated anyway. But everything, if you had travel, hotels, meals, anything during the time you were traveling, everything was covered completely. And I had very quick reimbursement. I know I've heard other people say that it wasn't, but mine was pretty much in a week or so, most of the time. So I have no complaints. It was great.
That was going to be my next question because I've heard people say that participating can be, especially if they have to travel, that it can be quite burdensome if they're waiting for reimbursement and it's taking a long time for that reimbursement to go through. That it can be difficult to participate.
I've heard that too. In my particular case, I wasn't waiting. It was quick to pretty much turn the receipts in and then it was reimbursed pretty quick. It's fortunate, I suppose. I've heard like you have some people not getting reimbursed so quickly.
Mhm.
I mean, it
Well,
might
it's
be a
nice
thought
to
for the future to give somebody that's in a trial a
Yeah.
card, credit card. Here, put everything on this card, and they pay for it. So that might be a thought to make it a little bit easier, so it doesn't come out of pocket to begin with.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I was about to say, it strikes me that while you might have been lucky, we can sort of learn from the experience of people who were lucky and people who weren't lucky in giving that feedback back to sponsors that this is something that really made a difference for
It did,
people.
and Heather's right. Some people were pretty far in debt before they got reimbursed, and that's hard if you don't have the
Yeah.
upfront money to do that.
Yeah, the card is a great idea. Like I work for, as you guys probably realize, Global Genes is a nonprofit. We are not flush with cash. I have a card for when I travel, but they just put a certain amount prepaid on the card, and I have to get special approval for anything over that amount. It's like that kind of system could work.
It could work. That would be great. It'd be very nice to offer someone.
Do we have any other questions or comments, feedback? We'd love to hear from the community and what your thoughts are on this subject, even if you haven't participated in a clinical trial. Um,
I think I think Tim would have some wonderful insight. He's like the godfather of clinical trials over here.
Yeah, I could give you my 2 cents worth. So I've been in a number of years back, a number of clinical trials associated with starting with Amicus and then couple three in Duke. And the big one was in
don't
July of
mention
16.
products. Don't mention products, please.
In July of 16, I started a clinical trial for IV therapy. And I was on that trial for 7.5 years, and it was just a fabulous experience. And I'm now got on the commercial on that recently. I last year I uh, signed up and got accepted for a gene therapy trial. Went through all the pre-trial testing, did very well in all of that, and I was about 2 weeks away from actually receiving the shot, and things went south on that one. A number of the patients that received the shot had some pretty major adverse reactions, and they said they were going to pull the pin on the trial, and so that one was um, a scary experience because I felt like I really dodged a bullet on it, and I'm actively looking for future gene therapy trials to start right now.
So Tim, what makes you want to be after especially experiencing something like this last experience you had, what makes you want to continue to participate?
Simply for the advancement of treatment for Pompe. That's it. I mean, if I'm going to be brutally honest, we know we're all probably going to die from this disease. So I want to help other people that have it. And I'm still active enough and physically able to do it. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind that, like the travel, for example, is doesn't bother me in the least. It's difficult, obviously, but I doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Do most of these, sorry, as I say, do most of these studies allow you to bring somebody to help you navigate through the hotels and things like that?
Yes, nearly every trial I've been in allowed what I guess you'd call it a companion or a caregiver type of a situation. Yes.
Yeah, they also, if you bring someone with you, the ones I've been in, they covered their meals and transportation. So it wasn't a burden on you to bring somebody to help, except.
I got
So,
another question. Does do they typically make you come off of whatever therapy you're on long before you start their therapy?
it varies, but generally nobody's been real uh, uh, strict about the um, changing therapies before you get started. In fact, the clinical trial one for the gene therapy one that I did, they you had to be on the IV therapy in even to get into it.
Right, and mine was the same way, Tim, and there was a time limit, so many years or months that you had to be on that before you could enter the trial. That was one of the qualifications.
Yeah.
Tim, I have a follow-up based on something you said. You said your experience in that long 7-year trial was fabulous. Like, what were the things that made it fabulous?
In this, there was a number of study sites. There was, I think, 5 in the U.S. or something like that. And I think I just simply drew the right cards and uh, got a clinic that was genuinely interested in uh, clinical trials and research, and they made all the difference in the world. It
Um,
wasn't a. Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. So I see there's a question from Habiba about, is this for general, just gene therapy in general, or for LOPD? Because she has a child and wants to be sure it concerns them too. Um, Carmen, we talked a little bit about this during the last meeting, I believe, and whether or not there were clinical trials available for IOPD. I don't think currently there's any gene therapy trials for IOPD. Um, are you aware of any clinical trials,
I'm
Carmen?
not currently aware of any clinical trials for children with IOPD in the United States that are enrolling. Um, but it's very much, I think, all of our hope that that's what it leads to. So very, very frequently, especially in like new therapeutic approaches. So in Pompe, gene therapy would be a new therapeutic approach, not one that's currently approved as a post-market therapy. Um, you know, you usually start with a later onset and just older patient population before the FDA is ready to go into younger, not always, but usually. So I think this is a question that we have a list of questions that we're accumulating, but this is a question that we definitely want to ask the sponsors who are planning to come to the third meeting in this series, the last meeting in this series, about what are their plans for expanding into IOPD and what can they share about that potential timeline.
Thank you. I hope that was helpful.
And then Brittany had a comment. I don't know if you want to read that out, Heather.
She says that they have 2 children in a clinical trial for enzyme replacement, and she's found that they prefer to be in a clinical trial versus not due to more frequent monitoring of their disease progression. They would receive solely doing regular ERT. I hope I read that correctly.
I have heard from some parents that same feedback that like the more frequent monitoring is very helpful to understand, on a kind of shorter time frame how their child is doing over time on therapy. Sometimes there are different dosages also that are available in a clinical trial than like insurance might approve. And so sometimes, our crazy healthcare system and various people on different insurance, one may or may not be able to get a particular dosage that's not like the standard recommendation. But sometimes in a clinical trial, they might be trying different dosages. So that's something just to consider, I think, as a parent. And is something that, like as Sean and Vanessa talked about, I would think as a parent, I am a parent, but not a parent of a child with Pompe disease. I would think I'd want to ask lots of questions about that. Like, what's known of the different dosages? Like, why are you trying this dosage? What's the potential benefit? What's the potential risk?
Do we have any more questions, or Dawn, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
So if I am willing to get into any kind of clinical trial that might be going on, I need to go to that website and see what's going on. Is that my understanding?
Well,
I'm going to show you 3 ways. So I actually put together just a couple of slides, which we'll make available afterward. Not a lot, just a couple, just to show you like 3 ways to stay on top of what's going on. Sean talked about his experience, which was very, very thoughtful and deliberate. Like I think Vanessa, you're so connected with your own clinic and they're so involved in so many trials that they reach out to you when there's one that they think you might be a candidate for. One of the things that we have heard a lot from the community in various sort of meetings and listening sessions is like, well, if I don't regularly go to one of those big, like sort of top 5 or top 3 sites that participates in a lot of clinical trials, like would anybody know to reach out to me? And the companies cannot just like find you on Facebook and reach out to you directly. There has to be some sort of like opt-in mechanism where you've said to an intermediary, whether that's your doctor or like a research study, like there we go. We have 2 instances of Tim.
yeah.
Um, but I can share that to you now, or we'll wait a couple minutes and ask other questions first, because I know, Sean, you have to drop, and I don't want to talk when we still have you.
Sorry, what was that again? Hello?
Yep,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear anything. What? I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
No, I was
Carmen
just,
was just saying she didn't want to talk to share the slides that she had if people still had questions
Oh,
for you before you had to leave.
yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
I got 10 more minutes and before I have to go.
that's
Okay.
right. It's almost last call for Sean, if anybody has
Oh,
more
we can see
questions.
Tim's face now.
Got it to work eventually.
Do we have any more questions before um before Carmen shares the slides, and we might have some more questions after she shares this information.
Tim, we have you in 2 places, which is okay. One
Yeah, it
has your
does
photo
me.
and one doesn't. That's okay.
I belong in the 1980s.
I'm with you. Trust me.
You guys are doing great. Look, you're here, you're on screen, you're participating, you're
Right,
presenting.
right.
You're right here with us, 2025. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and just share a couple of things real quick. So based on feedback and questions that we got, I just wanted to talk about especially this. How can you find out if you're a candidate for a clinical trial other than like what I think has historically been done most often, which is what Vanessa described, which is, she goes to a clinical trial site for her um, primary ongoing care for Pompe. And so they know her and they know to reach out if something's good fit. Or Sean described going to like 12 sites and doing all the research himself. So we're trying to figure out ways to make this simpler and to make it more inclusive so that if you're not going to one of those sites, you still know when a trial is starting, you can still be a candidate. So there's really, I would say, 3 more centralized ways. One is to sign up for Progress for Pompe. So if you were in the last meeting, you know that I was begging people to vote for a name because Pompe, like data initiative, just does not roll off the tongue. So we have this research study that the community has voted on a name of Progress for Pompe. I actually love that name because I think that progress can occur in a lot of different ways. Some of it's therapeutic and some of it's not. Some of it's more about learning about disease impact or mental health and how we can really support the community. And so there's the link to that. If you go to that link, rare-x.org/Pompe, you'll see this. So this is the first ever patient-owned and patient-led research study in Pompe disease. And when you enroll, one of the things that you will get is you will get an opportunity to opt in to be notified of clinical trials that might be applicable to you. So we are working with a variety of different therapy developers to make sure that we're really like staying up to date, moving forward on their plans for their next clinical trial and when that's going to open and making it more widely available. And, if you, oh, is there a question? No.
No.
Okay. If you are the parent of a child with IOPD and there's a new clinical trial that's getting started and we're getting the word out, you might not hear from us even if you opted in, if it's only for, older children and adults with LOPD. So this is a way also that we can make sure that we're really doing targeted outreach only to individuals who might be good candidates. And we'll make sure to send out afterward, like the very specific sort of steps to getting started. The second way, and this is coming soon, so this is not yet available. So if you go to pompeconsortium.org, there are a number of different patient advocates, and if you want to be one of them, just by being here, I would define you as a patient advocate, someone who's interested in a better future for families impacted by Pompe. But if you want to be involved in any way, if you have like graphic design skills, or if you're just really interested in like helping with social media, whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever your skill set is, I guarantee you, you could be helpful. But a lot of people are just coming together and figuring out like how can we as an advocacy community, you as a patient community, really make progress. So we are meeting with a number of these therapy developers to get kind of their approval and buy-in for the way we put information on here, but we're going to have a page. Anyone who knows Paloma is going to be kind of working on this page within this website to have information about open clinical trials and to have an opportunity for sponsors also to send us lay language summaries when results start to come out, so that we have a centralized place that we can put that in, and we'll work with a variety of partners to, like, when this goes live, to put it out over social media and emails for the people who were part of this series to let them know that that's live. And then the last way, and I'm happy to walk you through this if we have a few minutes and people want to, I can just go to the website and show you how to navigate this. But clinicaltrials.org is a website that is run by the federal government. Every clinical trial that enrolls in the United States is required to be listed on here. But it is not always totally up to date, especially on trials that are discontinued or that have been paused, or those kind of things are not always up to date on clinicaltrials.gov. But if you're interested, I can certainly like stop sharing here and I can show you the live website and and show you kind of tricks to how to navigate it. But I'm going to stop for now, take questions, and then if you want me to do that, I'll do that.
Another resource I would add is a website called MediFind. And you can go in there and you can search for clinical trials by entering Pompe disease and your location. And I looked at it recently, and there's a lot of them, and there are filters, so you can filter out like what you're looking for. But that's another resource.
Real
I'm gonna
quickly, I
put
just
it in
wanna,
the.
I'm
I'm sorry.
gonna get going over here. So thank you all, and hope to see all you soon.
Thanks,
Thank
Sean.
you.
Thanks, Sean.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
John.
Take care.
Real quick, that website was rare-x something.
Yep, it's in
Um,
the chat, but if that's
Okay.
hard, it's just rare-x.org/Pompe.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. I think Google
yeah,
will
it
take you there
it's
too.
yeah, and Tina put it in the chat for the Rare X. She put that in there. She also put the clinicaltrials.gov in there, and I just added MediFind. We also have a link to MediFind on the Pompe Alliance webpage. And we might have a link to clinicaltrials.gov on our website too. Did anybody have questions about those options and finding clinical trials? Um,
And also, if you're signing up for the Pompe study for Progress for Pompe, if you're signing up, you have any issues at all, Tina, will you pop your email address in the chat? So Tina manages a lot of the just feedback and support and helping people. So if you have any issues at all, yeah, you can reach out to
al-
her.
Also, I was talking with Caitlin, and Caitlin has said she would also help people get signed up. But I wouldn't share anybody's information without their permission. So Caitlin said she's happy to schedule appointments with people. So if you would like to have a chat with Caitlin, I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and you can send me an email, and we can chat about you giving me permission to share your information with Caitlin. And she's happy to schedule some time to talk to people.
We have a question from Brian Gonzalez.
Oh, yeah. So Brian wants to know, thanks, Vanessa, how they can take part in clinical trials in Latin America.
So I think this is you know what, I'm going to share something again really quickly, which I will warn you isn't an answer to this question. It's a repeat of this question. So here's some questions that we heard from the first meeting that we took down and we already shared. Well, we meaning really Heather, already shared with the therapy developers who are going to come in and speak about their own trials and their plans. But this is one of the questions that we heard from that first meeting and we took down is, do you expect clinical trials or trial sites to be open in countries outside of the United States and Europe? And like, what might the timeline for that be? So I don't think that we can really answer that question, but hopefully we'll get some answers. when you look at these, if there are other questions that you have that you want to make sure that those companies come in prepared to address, sometimes they have to get certain answers approved in advance. So it's always helpful for them to know what the major questions are first.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, you're welcome. And please know that the sponsors are real from what I've heard. They're interested in talking to patients and getting feedback from patients and questions from patients in real time. As Vanessa said, talked about the accommodations and things that she was able to receive, or being able to ask for. Having that kind of information helps to make the patient experience in these clinical trials, I don't want to say more enjoyable, but maybe less burdensome or feasible, if you will. So they're very interested in what patients have to say, um, and about participating or thinking about participating in the things that they might be looking at that says, I want to do this trial versus this one. So please, if you have feedback about that, definitely, we're working on making sure they attend this third meeting, to be able to answer some of these questions. And as Carmen said, being able to give them to them in advance is certainly helpful.
Brian, it's Brian, not Brian, right?
Yeah,
Heather,
Brian.
Brian. I did
Yeah.
also want just to
Yes.
mention that the Progress for Pompe study on RareX is a global study. So we do work really, really hard to meet data privacy regulations around the world. We can both collect data and share it with qualified researchers from individuals living outside of the United States, outside of Europe. And so that includes, throughout Central and South America. We are working on some translations right now. So currently it is in English, but we are hard at work on some translations that will include Spanish and Portuguese as well.
Brian is the president of the Pompe group in Colombia.
Yes.
So he's definitely a person to know. They do a lot of great work down there. We Pompe Alliance has worked really collaboratively alongside the Columbia group, and have been happy to do so for, I don't know, several years now. Yeah, Fernando was here the last time, but he didn't make it today. But Brian is the president and Fernando is the vice president.
Thank
Fernando
you.
was able to make it to the Duke. You're welcome. Fernando was able to make it to the Duke conference. So some of the people here may have had the opportunity to meet him.
Excellent. Le gustó mucho. Beautiful conference. Okay.
Yes. Tim or Vanessa, anything else that either of you would like to add, as we're getting closer to the end of the meeting?
That's kind of what you said, Heather. If you're interested at all, reach out, even though you think you may not qualify or you need something a little different than what the protocol is. Just reach out, talk to somebody, and see what they can do. I think they're all willing and wanting you to be involved and want to do whatever they can do. That's been my experience. Tim, how about you, buddy?
Nothing to add. Some good information out of here. I'm glad to check out some of these 2 or 3 websites I wrote down because sometimes that clinicaltrials.gov gets pretty confusing.
Mhm. It's gotten a little better. It's not ideal, but it's gotten a little bit better. They do at least now have like a tab for with kind of lay language. kind of. And then one that's more the doctor researcher view. But yeah, I think having a centralized place where you just go to find Pompe specific trials and like what has closed and what are the interim results that have been shared so far? What's currently open to enrollment? What do we expect to be on the horizon next? We've very clearly heard that would be amazing. So we're going to put it together.
Yeah. And that's the lay language. I had a conversation with a sponsor just earlier this week, and that was one of the things that we talked about is the lay language versus the doctor researcher language. And both are valuable. Um, and sometimes I mean, I feel like a lot of times it's just that doctor research language. And so I'm reading through stuff while also Googling words because I don't know what they mean. So it makes it hard to get, as a patient, for me, speaking for myself, it makes it hard to be able to make an informed decision. Because I may not fully understand what's being said. And myself an educated person, and but I'm not a doctor. I'm a social worker, so the language is different, and it's hard to be able to feel like I'm making an informed decision when I don't totally understand what is in front of me.
I just want to say if any of you guys, whenever you come across that, where you're just not understanding what the doctors are saying, please reach out to me. I've been a nurse. I've been a critical care nurse for over 25 years. So I speak their language and I can usually break it down and make it human understandable. So please reach out to me if you want to, okay? And if I don't understand, I can find a place to go to make it understand me. And then once I understand it, then I can make it so that everybody else can understand it or what they're trying to say. So let me just offer that up, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Dawn, I feel like I should maybe have Paloma reach out to you so that when people, when these industry partners send over information that is, in the lay language, you can review it and say like, no, we can do better, or this is great.
I would absolutely be willing to help out in any way possible at all.
Okay. I'm gonna tell her.
Perfect.
All right, we have 5 minutes left. Any questions, comments, concerns? We're the third meeting. We're planning to have some of the sponsors come and the not necessarily talk about the clinical trials themselves, but more about the patient experience, and any questions and concerns that the community has. And so the last time we met, as Carmen showed you, the questions that we were able to kind of gather from the conversation, we've been able to take those to some of the sponsors and say, look, this is what the patients in the community are interested in. These are their concerns. And again, feel free to email me. My email is in the chat. If you think of things after this meeting, the next meeting is in 2 weeks. So, we do have some time to
I think Heather, initially it was going to be in 2 weeks, and then we pushed it out one because of Memorial Day, and now we might need to push it out just a little longer because one of the sponsors can't do it.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
stay tuned. It might be about a month, actually. It might be 4 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Vanessa and Tim, for sharing your experience. I really appreciate it. I hope this was helpful to people here today. And again, if you have some additional questions or concerns, you can email me. Um, and I can always get emails to Carmen. Tina put her email in the chat also. If you are interested in chatting with Caitlin, and Caitlin is also with Global Genes and working with Carmen and Tina and on the Pompe Consortium and the information gathering. So just in case you don't remember Caitlin from the last meeting, but if you are interested in meeting and chatting with her, please send me an email and I can get you connected and you can schedule a time to do that.